US President Donald Trump's visit to China has left Taiwan with more questions than answers. Trump has struck a neutral tone on Taiwan after his meeting with Xi Jinping, and this is a significant shift from Washington's long-standing position on security ties with Taiwan. US arms sales to Taiwan have been a point of concern for China, and Trump says that the people of Taiwan, they should feel neutral about his meeting with President Xi Jinping. But he later said that he isn't looking at the US engaging in war with China on the Taiwan issue.
Should the people of Taiwan feel more or less secure after your meetings with President Xi?
Neutral. Neutral.
Has the policy changed at all?
No, nothing's changed.
U.S. policy?
No, nothing's changed. I will say this. I'm not looking to have somebody go independent and, we're supposed to travel 9,500 miles to fight a war. I'm not looking for that.
Well, this wasn't the only moment when Trump expressed a softer stance on Taiwan. During his visit to the 600-year-old Temple of Heaven, with Chinese President, Trump said that China is beautiful in response to a question on Taiwan.
How were your talks, sir?
Great.
Did you talk about Taiwan,
Great
Mr.
place.
President?
Incredible. China's beautiful.
Did you talk about Taiwan, Mr. President?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, did you talk about Taiwan?
Hey, thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
On his way back to Washington, the U.S. president was asked about assurances made by former U.S. President Ronald Reagan in 1982 that Washington would not consult with China on arms sales to Taiwan. Trump replied that 1982 was a long time ago, and he did discuss arms sales to Taiwan during his meeting with Xi.
Well, I think 1982 is a long way.
It was.
That's a big far distance.
You dispensed with them?
No, I didn't say anything about it. But certainly, he brought that up. He talked about that to me, obviously. So what am I going to do? Say I don't want to talk to you about it because I have an agreement that was signed in 1982. No, we discussed arms sales too.
The U.S. had unveiled an arms package for Taiwan worth more than $11 billion in December 2025. The United States does not officially recognize Taiwan as a country, but is the self-ruled island's biggest security backer. Its arms supplies are a key deterrent against a potential attack from China, which claims Taiwan is part of its territory and has threatened to use force to bring Taipei under its control. Now joining us live from Washington, D.C. is Edward P. Joseph. He's a senior fellow at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies and a former U.S. Army helicopter pilot and foreign policy analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Now, Mr. Joseph, after the Trump-Xi summit, many observers felt that President Trump sounded unusually subdued and hesitant on Taiwan. And the same Trump, who had earlier warned that if China moved against, the island, he would respond with massive tariffs, has struck a very different tone after meeting Xi, saying he was not looking to have somebody go independent and even questioning the idea of US fighting a war which is 9,500 miles away. What do you think changed?
First, good to be with you and your viewers. And I think what we're seeing is not really a change. We're seeing a reveal. And I know this has caused a lot of concern here in Washington among China scholars. This is a reveal. It's not a change. It's a reveal of a softening of a long-standing and very successful posture of the United States towards Taiwan, which has allowed quite successfully the United States to advance and open commercial ties with Beijing and have a relatively calm relationship with China, and at the same time have also this very close relationship with Taiwan, which has seen Taiwan succeed remarkably, one of the most successful countries in the world. And the United States, the policy of the United States has had up to now maintaining a surface ambiguity and about the status of China and insisting on the one China policy, that nominally there is only one China, but at the same time also firmly protecting and signaling that it will, the United States will back stability in the Taiwan Strait and signaling only occasionally, openly, as President Biden did, that it will come to the defense of Taiwan. This has actually proven successful, and unfortunately, President Trump is weakening that. And in so doing, ironically, he says that he's doesn't want to fight a war 9,500 miles away, but in fact, by weakening this longstanding U.S. posture, he could be inviting those very tensions. Please.
Right, we hear you, Mr. Joseph, and one of the biggest headlines was Trump refusing to immediately approve the $11 billion Taiwan arms package. But given that Taiwan is also a key component of the administration's efforts to create a secure supply chain for the U.S.'s high-tech sector, backtracking on the ties, it would come with cost for the United States. How do you think Taipei would be reading into that?
I think you're absolutely right to be pointing to this, that, again, to look at the success of Taiwan to become the world's leading producer of high-end semiconductor chips. Taiwan, it's not only successful for itself, it's vital to the global economy. And it does have, so Taiwan is not just a passive player here with no leverage whatsoever. Taiwan also has a player, and Taiwan also has great support here in the United States, particularly in Washington and in Congress and among Republicans. And so that's a point as well. And unfortunately, President Trump, who does not think strategically, thinks very impulsively, thinks only in terms of one transaction at a time instead of multiple and a global web of interests. He goes to Beijing, looks at Xi and says, whoa, gee, what do we want from the Chinese? Oh, well, if I give them something on Taiwan, they'll give me something back. And then he neglects to look at the wider American interests and continuing American interests in the relationship with Taiwan. And again, ironic, by this weakening of the posture, he could be inviting the very instability that he says he does not want. Please.
Right, and having said that, how closely do you think countries like Japan, South Korea and the Philippines would be watching this? And Trump's hesitation, do you think that could damage the broader confidence that people have in America's security guarantees in the Indo-Pacific?
Absolutely right. And we can mention Philippines as well in that context. And again, this is so unfortunate with President Trump that he sees things in one at a time, very short-term, narrow, transactional way, and without understanding how American interests are connected here. And the point you raised in your question is absolutely correct. So neighbors, there, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Australia, others, including India and others who are in Asia and are warily watching what China does, will of course see this, and the interpretation of the signal of weakness on Taiwan will be seen as weakness by these neighbors as well. Please.
Of course, Mr. Joseph, we'll have to wait and see if this is simply President Trump being strategically cautious, or if we are perhaps witnessing the early signs of a major recalibration in America's Taiwan policy. But for now, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your insights with us.
You're welcome.